Right now, at this exact second, a moderately capable large language model can generate a completely viable, structurally sound, billion-dollar business plan in roughly 10 seconds.
Oh, easily. Less than that, probably.
Right. Give it another 20 seconds, and it will write the marketing copy, outline the system architecture, and generate the seed deck.
Yeah, it's wild.
It is. We have officially reached a point in human history where ideas, even brilliant ones, have a market value of exactly zero.
Which is just a profound deflationary event. I mean, when anyone can summon genius-level ideation with a keyboard shortcut, the premium on simply having a good idea, it vanishes entirely.
It completely vanishes.
Yeah.
Which raises a terrifying but also kind of thrilling question. What happens to the internet when talk is literally worthless?
Yeah, that is the question.
I mean, if the friction of creating ideas drops to zero,
Yep.
how do we figure out who is actually building the future and who is just, generating noise?
Right, because there's a lot of noise.
So much noise. So to answer that, we are looking at a stack of documents today that, frankly, they kept me up all night.
I don't blame you. It's a heavy stack.
It really is. We have this highly technical collection of manifestos, GitHub READMEs, architectural blueprints, and cryptographic protocols from a research group called Outlier.Systems and their platform, modusmoves.us.
And their stated mission is, it's nothing short of audacious. I mean, they are attempting to engineer the end of the attention economy.
Just end it completely.
Right, and provide the infrastructure for what they call the coordination economy, or specifically the Modus Moves economy.
So for you listening right now, whether you are a distributed systems architect, an on-chain developer, or just someone who feels a deep, spiritual exhaustion every time you open a legacy social feed.
Which is all of us, let's be honest.
Exactly. This is your blueprint. The sources we are unpacking today aren't pitching a consumer app. They aren't pitching a new Layer 2 rollup. They are pitching a fundamental, ground-up rewiring of how human beings and autonomous agents collaborate.
How they collaborate, how they verify truth, and crucially, how they deploy capital.
Yes, the stakes here are structural.
Completely. We are looking at a deliberate attempt to migrate humanity off of an infrastructure that extracts outrage and attention onto a cryptographic staging ground that, facilitates and funds verifiable collective action.
Let's start with that migration, because the sources spend a lot of time diagnosing the specific physics of why our current internet feels so broken.
Yeah, they refer to the legacy attention economy as a failed state.
A failed state.
Right.
And it makes sense if you look at the mechanics, right? In an attention economy, the network doesn't care if the packet of data it routes is a cure for a disease or, a video of someone screaming at a barista.
It doesn't differentiate at all.
No. It only measures the latency of the engagement. It's a zero-sum game for eyeballs.
And because it's a zero-sum game, it inevitably creates this environment of maximal friction. I mean, if the algorithm rewards the duration of attention, the most efficient way to capture that is through polarization.
Right. Anxiety, spectacle.
Exactly. So sources frame this brilliantly, actually. They say the attention economy is a system where everyone is financially incentivized to hold a megaphone, but no one is incentivized to hold a shovel.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
It is a crowded room where 10,000 people are just screaming, look at my blueprint, look at my outrage, look at my thought leadership.
Yeah, everyone's a thought leader.
Right. But because the noise is deafening, nobody can coordinate enough to actually lay a single brick.
So, Outlier.Systems proposes this massive pivot to the coordination economy, or they also call it the traction economy.
The traction economy, which completely flips the incentive structure, doesn't it?
It does. In a traction economy, value is no longer defined by how many people look at you. Value is defined by collective signal, transparent action, and cryptographic trust.
Their defining mantra in the manifesto is really sticky. Less noise, more signal, less talk, more action.
But we should probably define signal here.
Yeah, let's do that. Because in traditional tech parlance, signal just means high-quality content.
Right. But in the context of these sources, signal is something much more rigorous. They are talking about unforgeable proof of work in the physical or digital world.
Unforgeable proof. Because remember, our starting point, ideas are infinitely abundant now.
Exactly. So the only reliable metric left for investors or DAOs or communities to evaluate a builder is real-world traction.
And traction means a human being actually committed finite resources, right?
Yeah. Their time, their cryptographic reputation, or their capital, they actually executed a specific move.
Because you can prompt an AI to write a manifesto in 10 seconds.
Right, but you cannot prompt an AI to fake a community of human beings moving in synchronized, verified action. It's impossible.
So if you are Outlier.Systems and you want to build a staging ground for this kind of rigorous, verified coordination,
Yeah.
you can't just build it on top of the existing social media rails.
No, absolutely not.
You can't put this on a platform optimized for doom scrolling. You need a completely new environment.
You-
And this is where I want to dive into their architecture, starting with the language itself. Because the sources are absolutely adamant that etymology is architecture.
It's such a fascinating design choice. They deliberately use Latin terminology to structure the core primitives of the platform.
Which sounds pretentious at first, but
But it's not. They do this because they want the words themselves to act as functional constraints. The meaning of the word isn't just a UI label, it is the underlying philosophy of the software function.
let's look at the 4 pillars of this lexicon. The first one is initium.
Yeah, so initium translates to a beginning or an entrance. In the Modus Moves platform, this is your foundational builder identity.
And I was reading the technical specs and claiming your initium isn't just, signing up with an email and a password,
No, it's tied to decentralized identifiers, or DDs.
which we will get into the weeds on a bit later.
Yeah.
But philosophically, claiming your initium is a declaration that you are stepping onto the staging ground to build in public.
Right, it is a discrete starting line. You are on the board.
Okay, so then you have OBS.
OBS translates to motion, but the sources specify that it represents the mindset.
The mindset.
Yeah, it is the deeply considered why behind your action. In systems thinking, your modus is your awareness of the system's leverage points before you actually intervene.
So initium is who I am. Modus is why I am acting.
Exactly.
Then we get to MoVUS. And the architectural documents are very explicit that MoVUS carries a dual meaning in the system.
Yes, OBUS is both the micro and the macro.
Okay, break that down.
Well, at the micro level, a MoVUS is the move itself. It is the specific, verifiable act or step you are taking today to push your project forward.
Like pushing code or finalizing a permit.
Right. But at the macro level, MoVUS is the living feed. It's the shared ledger where all of these moves are broadcast.
Ah, okay.
Furthermore, it's the actual metric of momentum. Like, you can give a MoVUS to someone else's move to signal that their action is creating forward velocity.
That makes sense. And finally, the 4th pillar, which is VOTUS, which translates to a vow.
And this is where we really see the absolute rejection of the attention economy's mechanics.
How so?
Well, in legacy systems, a like or an upvote is infinite, and it's cheap. You can scroll and dispense thousands of them a day while you're half asleep.
Sure.
VOTUS is designed to be a strictly scarce daily signal. It represents strict values alignment and depth conviction. It is treated as a sacred commitment within the protocol.
Okay, so we have this operating system of intent. Initium, motus, MoVUS, VROTS. The identity, the mindset, the action, and the conviction.
Right.
And the sources claim that when a network operates strictly through these 4 primitives, it triggers something they call the modus effect. Now, anyone deep in tech or finance is intimately familiar with the Lindy effect, right?
Sure. The heuristic that the future life expectancy of a non-perishable thing, like a technology or an idea, is proportional to its current age.
Right. A book in print for 50 years will likely stay in print for 50 more. I assume the modus effect is a variation of this.
It is a variation, yeah, but it addresses the fatal flaw of the Lindy effect in the digital age.
What's the flaw?
Well, the Lindy effect is entirely passive. It assumes that mere survival over time equals value. But in a digital landscape where, data can be hosted indefinitely for fractions of a cent, passive survival means absolutely nothing.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I guess there are millions of dead repositories on GitHub that are technically surviving.
Exactly. They've been there for 10 years, but they're useless. So age alone doesn't prove utility anymore.
That makes so much sense.
The modus effect dictates that the longevity and strength of a mindset or a project is directly proportional to the active compounding human motion behind it. Meaning, the more people who are verifiably moving with a shared mindset, the longer that mindset thrives. It shifts the metric of survival from passive time to active cryptographic momentum.
Okay, so we have this deeply philosophical, almost monastic framing with the Latin primitives. But then you turn the page to the actual technical repository. And I have to admit, I stared at the GitHub READMEs for about 20 minutes trying to figure out if I was missing a folder or something.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
I mean, they are building this entire futuristic coordination engine on what they call a zero-build vanilla JS stack.
Handwritten HTML, CSS, and plain vanilla JavaScript.
I really need to push back on this, or at least play devil's advocate for the modern front-end developer out there listening. We are in 2026. Web development is dominated by massive, highly optimized frameworks. React, Next.js, SvelteKit, you've got complex bundlers like Webpack or Vite, transpilers, server-side rendering pipelines.
It's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah. And Outlier.
Wow.
Systems is proposing we build the future of global coordination using plain vanilla JS. Just HTML and JS files you can open in a text editor. It feels like we are deliberately reverting to the web development standards of, like, 2005. How does this possibly scale?
It's completely counterintuitive, I know, but it makes perfect sense once you understand their ideology regarding access and gatekeeping.
Yes, explain.
You mentioned that modern frameworks are highly optimized, and they are, but they are also exclusionary labyrinths. Modern web development requires a highly specialized tool chain, constant dependency management, and a deep understanding of abstraction layers just to, like, render a button on a screen.
That's totally fair. I mean, we've all experienced the absolute nightmare of a broken node modules folder, where a single deprecated dependency breaks the entire application.
Exactly. Outlier. Systems views that bloat as a systemic vulnerability and, honestly, an ideological barrier. If you want to build a platform for global human coordination, your staging ground cannot be locked behind a Silicon Valley toolchain.
I see.
The sources state explicitly, if you can run Python, you can run the whole platform. By utilizing modern ES modules that are now natively supported in all browsers, they just bypass the need for a bundler entirely.
Okay, but what about back-end state? You can't run a global network without a database.
Right, and this is where their architecture is remarkably elegant. They use just two external dependencies. Just two. They use for CellBlob for raw asset storage and streaming, and they use Supabase for their database, relying on its real-time Postgres capabilities over WebSockets.
Okay.
Because Supabase provides an auto-generated API, the vanilla front-end can talk directly to the database without needing a heavy Node.js middle layer at all.
Wait, so it's a completely serverless, stateless edge application. You just clone the repository, run a local Python HTTP server, and in 30 seconds, you're holding the entire functional Modus Moves platform on your local machine.
Yes, literally 30 seconds. And think about the implications of that systemic simplicity. It ensures that any builder, anywhere in the world, on virtually any hardware, can audit the code, fork the platform, and build decentralized applications on top of it.
And gatekeeping.
Exactly. It strips away the fragility of thousands of NPM packages and leaves only the raw, transparent logic.
It's radical transparency. I guess you can't ask a global community to place their trust, their reputation, and their capital into a black box that requires a master's degree in software engineering just to compile.
You can't. The medium is the message. A frictionless, transparent platform guarantees that the community actually owns the staging ground.
But a staging ground is just an empty room, right? To navigate the kind of complex, multi-layered, wicked problems that they see case. Systems wants to tackle things like local supply chain failures, DAO governance, decentralized public goods funding.
Really hard systemic problems.
Exactly. Builders need a completely different kind of intelligence to tackle those. Which brings us to the absolute crown jewel of this architecture, and we really need to spend significant time here because this is where the paradigm completely shifts. Let's introduce Devara.
Devara. She is the engine of the Modus Moves economy. But the sources are absolutely militant about one specific distinction. Devara is not an AI. She is an EI.
An emergent intelligence.
Yes.
We need to unpack that distinction carefully for everyone listening. What is the fundamental difference in their eyes between artificial intelligence and emergent intelligence?
Well, artificial intelligence, as designed by the current tech oligopoly, is inherently an engine of convergence.
Convergence, meaning coming together on one point.
Right. LLMs are trained on the entirety of human history to predict the most statistically probable next word. They are built to imitate the average of what has already been thought. It is regression to the mean, by design.
So if you ask a standard AI to solve a novel problem,
it will give you the safest, most widely accepted average answer.
Which is great if you need to write a generic, polite corporate email.
Yeah.
But absolutely useless if you are trying to find an outlier solution to a systemic bottleneck.
Exactly. Emergent intelligence, as defined by Outlier.Systems, is designed for divergence. It is about a human mind and a machine intelligence thinking together to find the anomaly.
The thing everyone else missed.
Right, the data point the model couldn't explain or the structural flaw everyone else just accepted as normal. Emergent intelligence doesn't imitate, it coordinates toward what actually matters.
And the way Devara is programmed to achieve this divergence is fascinating to me. Most chatbots are designed as infinite answer machines. Their goal is to give you a definitive output so you can just copy-paste it and move on with your day.
But Devara's core directive is the exact opposite.
Right. She is not programmed to teach you what to think. She is programmed to teach you how to think.
And her methodology for teaching you how to think is grounded entirely in the lineage of Donella Meadows.
The legendary systems scientist, author of Thinking in Systems, which is basically the holy text for anyone trying to understand complex dynamics.
It really is. Meadows taught that complex systems, whether it's a global economy or just a local ecosystem, they resist forceful top-down control.
Right.
If you try to force a complex system to do what you want without understanding its structure, it will inevitably push back. And that usually creates unintended, catastrophic consequences. You have to understand the structure first.
So Devara actually forces the builder to map the system before they are allowed to declare a move.
She does.
Let's walk through how this actually works in practice. Say a community is trying to solve a localized problem, like a failing decentralized autonomous organization, a DAO, where voter apathy is at 90% and the treasury is slowly draining. A builder logs into Modus Moves and asks Devara, how do we force people to vote?
Okay, so a traditional AI would immediately spit out a list of standard engagement tactics. It'd say, create a marketing campaign, offer a small token airdrop for voting, send automated reminder emails.
All of which are superficial patches that treat the symptom, not the root cause.
Exactly. Devara would flat out refuse to give those answers. Instead, she utilizes Meadows' famous framework of the 12 leverage points to intervene in a system.
Oh, I love the 12 leverage points.
Yeah. So she would force the builder to map the DAO's architecture. She would ask, what are the stocks and flows of attention in this DAO? Where are the balancing feedback loops that are keeping voter participation low? Are the actual rules of the system incentivizing apathy?
So she might help the builder realize that the leverage point isn't bribing people to vote. The leverage point is changing the information flows. Perhaps the proposals are too technical, or the voting window is misaligned with communities' real-life time zones.
Yes. Or maybe the ultimate leverage point is changing the paradigm of the DAO itself, like moving from a direct democracy to a liquid democracy model.
By walking the builder through these leverage points, Devara practices what Meadows beautifully called dancing with systems.
Dancing with systems. It implies a profound respect for the complexity of the environment. You don't try to dominate the system. You find its natural rhythms and you apply pressure exactly where a tiny shift can cascade into massive structural change.
This requires a level of architectural safety that goes way beyond traditional AI guardrails. And Outlier.Systems has developed a specific design pattern for this, which they call the soul before brain architecture.
Yeah, and this is their counterproposal to the entire AI safety industry.
Which is pretty bold.
It is. Currently, the major AI labs build massive, hyper-capable brains first. They train these models on the entire internet, and then after the fact, they bolt on a layer of safety, usually through reinforcement learning from human feedback, to try and suppress the model's tendency to hallucinate, manipulate, or just spew toxicity.
It's like building a high-performance sports car and then trying to install the brakes while it's going 200 miles an hour down the highway.
Precisely. It's backwards. Outlier.
Yep.
Systems reverse the sequence. They built the soul first. Devara's foundation is an immutable baseline of ethics and constraints locked into a core file, simply called devaracore.js.
And this file contains her face. 7 refusals. What are the refusals?
They are absolute boundaries on her behavior. For example, no reasoning theater.
Meaning what?
Meaning she won't pretend to have a human emotion just to seem empathetic. Another one is no flattery. She won't agree with a builder's flawed logic just to appease them and make them feel smart. That's huge. And most importantly, no reduction of human agency. She will never execute a final decision on behalf of a human without explicit instruction.
I need to stop you there and push back a little, because as a systems thinker myself, I know that whenever someone claims a piece of software is quote-unquote immutable, there is usually a vulnerability hiding in plain sight.
Sure.
In traditional software, someone always has root access. Are they genuinely claiming this Devara core.js is untouchable? What if there's a zero-day exploit? What if the baseline ethics, the 7 refusals, turn out to be misaligned 5 years from now and need to be updated? You can't just hard code a philosopher king and walk away.
That is the exact vulnerability they had to design around. And their solution is why DevaraCore.js isn't some encyclopedic rulebook. It is a minimalist cryptographic covenant.
Okay, how does that work?
The file itself is version-controlled and verifiable via its hash. If a host tries to alter the 7 refusals, the hash changes, and the client-side Vanilla.js platform immediately recognizes that the agent has been corrupted.
And then what?
It severs the connection instantly. The community can collectively agree to update the core via a decentralized governance vote, but no single developer has silent root access to change her underlying nature.
Okay, so the soul is a transparent, verifiable baseline. And on top of that soul, the human user brings the brain.
Exactly. The user brings 2 specific inputs. First, their core text.
Core text.
Yeah, which is the essential long-term context that Devara must never forget about the builder's goals and constraints. And second, they bring their sympath soul, which is the human empathy layer. Devara doesn't simulate empathy. She relies entirely on the human to provide it.
It fundamentally changes the relationship between human and machine. It makes me think of the way we currently treat AI, like a GPS system. When you use a GPS, you plug in a destination, it gives you blind, turn-by-turn directions, and you just follow the glowing line on the screen.
You're just blindly obeying.
Right, you eventually arrive, but you have no idea how you got there. Your spatial awareness completely atrophies. If the GPS breaks, you are totally lost.
It's a perfect analogy for the dependency current AI creates.
Devara, on the other hand, is like a master driving instructor sitting in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
She doesn't just tell you to turn left at the next light. She forces you to look at the traffic patterns. She teaches you how to read the stars, how to feel the traction of the tires on the terrain, how to anticipate the mechanics of the vehicle.
Yeah. She ensures that you understand the environment so deeply that you can navigate flawlessly even when she isn't in the car.
Which perfectly aligns with Devara's ultimate one-line test for success, which is stated explicitly in the manifesto. If you leave more capable, it worked. If you leave more dependent, it failed.
And there is an addendum to that quote in sources that I highlighted like 3 times. It says, if you leave more dependent, it failed, even if you were delighted.
Oh, wow.
Right. I think that is the most incisive critique of modern technology I've read all year. We are completely addicted to software that delights us by doing the hard work for us, which quietly, inevitably, makes us entirely dependent on the tech companies providing the software.
It is the ultimate invisible tether. And Devara is built to sever that tether by ensuring the human is always the prime mover of the intelligence.
Exactly.
Okay, let's step back and look at the board. We have the zero-barrier Vanilla.js staging ground. We have the lexicon of intent. We have Devara, the emergent intelligence, forcing us to map the system and find the leverage points using Donella Meadows' framework. The strategy is perfect. The map is drawn.
A map is not the territory.
Exactly. This is where so many visionary projects just die. They brainstorm brilliantly, but they cannot escape the simulation. How do we force humans to actually execute the physical or digital labor required to change the system? Devara can't write the code. She can't negotiate the local permits. She can't physically build the public good.
Right, there has to be an incentive layer. We need to talk about the tokenomics engine.
And this is usually the point in a deep dive where listeners brace themselves for a convoluted, hyper-speculative crypto grift.
Oh, 100%. Tokenomics is usually a massive red flag.
It really is.
But what is truly breathtaking about the Modus Muse architecture is the absolute discipline restraint. The sources explicitly state that they are entirely deferring the creation of their own speculative utility token. There is no MOTUS token you have to buy.
That is such a relief. In a space obsessed with instant liquidity events, saying less is more and refusing to launch a token is a massive signal of integrity. So if there is no native Modus token, what is the economic engine?
They have engineered a 3-token crypto-economic flywheel using entirely real battle-tested existing protocols.
Let's break down the flywheel. What is the first token?
The first is D-Day-H, representing value. D-Day-H is the foundational settlement layer of the platform. It serves 2 critical functions. First, it handles identity. Modus Moves utilizes the Dash Network's newly released Evolution protocol, which allows builders to create decentralized identifiers or DDIs.
Okay, so this is what anchors your Initium identity to a cryptographic truth.
Exactly. And second, it acts as the entry capital and settlement rail.
And I assume they chose Dash specifically because of its instant send feature.
They did, because for a coordination economy to work at scale, you cannot wait 10 minutes for block confirmations, and you cannot pay exorbitant Ethereum gas fees.
Right.
Dash utilizes a secondary layer of masternodes that lock in transactions with chain locks, allowing for secure, instant finality, usually sub 2 seconds for fractions of a cent. So Dash H is the high-velocity value layer.
Okay, Dash H is value. What is the second token?
The second is VOTUS, which represents conviction. Crucially, VOTUS is not a blockchain token. It does not exist on a distributed ledger, and it cannot be bought, sold, or traded on an exchange. It is a strictly internal off-chain platform signal.
The vow.
Yes. As a verified builder on the Modus Moves platform, you receive a strictly scarce allocation of exactly 7 VOTUS per day.
Only 7.
Only 7. This scarcity forces prioritization. You have 2 choices for how to use your daily energy. You can burn liquid VOTUS to think, meaning you spend it to cover the computational overhead of reasoning with the Vara, or you can stake it to vow on a move.
Staking it to vow, meaning I am publicly declaring my conviction that a specific action will be completed.
Correct. You are attaching your scarce intent to a specific vector.
So value, which is DHH, provides the rails. Conviction, which is VOTUS, directs the energy. What is the third token? This is where the actual verified traction happens, right?
Yes. The third token is trust, representing reputation. And this is the native token of the Outlier.Systems protocol. Intuition is a decentralized, cryptographically secured knowledge graph.
Okay, we need to go deep on the mechanics of Outlier.Systems because this is the bridge between the digital intent and the physical world. The architectural documents talk heavily about atoms and triples. Walk me through how this trust graph actually functions.
Okay, let's build a scenario. Intuition functions somewhat similarly to the principles of the semantic web, but with cryptographic stakes. In the Intuition protocol, an atom is a decentralized identifier for a specific noun. It could be a person, a project, a piece of code, or an organization.
Got it.
And a triple. A triple is a verifiable claim that connects 2 atoms using a verb, a predicate. So the structure is subject, predicate, object.
Let's construct a triple for a builder on Modus Moves. Give me an example.
Okay. Let's say you are the builder. Your Inivium DID is the subject atom. You commit to writing a specific piece of open source code for a DAO. The GitHub pull request is the object atom. When you claim you have finished the work, you create a triple. Host Inidium shipped GitHub PR123.
So I have made a cryptographic sentence asserting a truth, but I mean, anyone can make a claim. I could create a triple claiming I built the pyramids. How does the protocol actually verify the truth of the claim without relying on a centralized oracle?
This is the brilliance of the Intuition protocol. Every triple on the graph has 2 associated staking vaults, a for vault and an against vault. Anyone in the network can evaluate your claim and stake their trust tokens into one of these vaults. If the community reviews your GitHub PR, sees that the code is flawless, and believes your claim, they stake trust in the for vault. If you lied and the code is garbage, they stake in the against vault.
They are literally putting their money behind their belief in my traction.
Exactly. It creates a robust, decentralized consensus mechanism for truth. And the Modus Moves platform is designed to seamlessly integrate with this.
So what's the full loop?
Here is how the complete loop operates. Your initial promise to do the work lives cheaply off-chain as your VOTUS vow. But when you actually execute the move, when you ship the code, that kept vow is etched permanently on-chain to the Intuition protocol as a triple.
And when that triple is validated by the community.
The Modus Moves platform writes the proof of action receipt, and the protocol mints and deposits real trust tokens directly into your embedded wallet and into the vault associated with that specific action.
This completely destroys vaporware culture.
It shatters it.
In the current paradigm, founders routinely raise tens of millions of dollars based on nothing but a glossy white paper and a charismatic pitch, and then they disappear without ever shipping a product.
We see it every day.
But in the Modus Moves economy, your declarations are cheap. You cannot raise capital on empty promises. Value only accrues when the action is independently verified by the community on the Intuition graph.
It creates a book of deeds, not declarations. You cannot purchase this reputation on an open market. You have to stake your intent, execute the labor, and prove your traction.
And the implications for the builder are massive because this reputation is portable. If I spend a year building highly verified, successful public goods on Modus Moves, I earn a substantial amount of trust. If I then decide to move to a completely different platform that also reads the Intuition knowledge graph, my reputation comes with me.
Yes, it is an immutable, appreciating asset linked directly to your deity. It democratizes credibility on a global scale. You don't need the gatekeeping of a degree from an elite university or a warm introduction from a venture capitalist to prove you are a highly capable systems thinker.
You just point to the graph.
You possess an undeniable cryptographic graph of your applied problem-solving skills. The blockchain proves you can execute.
Okay, the economic engine is brilliant. But as I read further into the architectural documents, I hit a section that genuinely unsettled me because it highlighted a massive security vulnerability that I hadn't even considered.
Oh, the agent security.
Yes. We are talking about placing an autonomous agent, Devara, at the center of a shared community treasury that holds highly liquid real value in Dash and trust.
It is the single most critical security question of the agentic era.
Think about the mechanics of how we currently authenticate software. I log into my bank or my AWS console. I type my password. Maybe I provide a two-factor auth code. The system issues a session token, and from that moment on, the server assumes that as long as that session token is active, a rational human being is sitting in front of the screen making decisions.
Right, because humans get tired. We walk away from the keyboard. We go to sleep. Traditional authentication architectures rely entirely on the biological limitations of the user.
But Devara is an EI. She acts continuously, 247, at machine speed. She never sleeps. If an attacker manages to steal an agent's credential, or worse, if the underlying LLM suffers a severe hallucination and decides that the optimal leverage point for a system is to drain the community treasury,
It can execute thousands of catastrophic transactions in the middle of the night while the human builder is asleep.
a traditional password, or an oath token, is essentially a blank check left under the digital doormat for an intelligence that operates at light speed.
And this is precisely why Outlier.Systems dedicated a massive portion of their research to a new protocol called SafeStep. They recognize that you cannot secure an agentic economy with human-era authentication.
Right?
SafeStep introduces a radically new cryptographic primitive known as proof of presence.
Proof of presence. Walk me through the exact mechanics of how this secures the agent.
Instead of a one-time login event, SafeStep requires a continuous, cryptographically signed presence beacon to be emitted from the builder's device. Imagine it as a short-lived heartbeat, generated locally and pinged to the network every 60 seconds.
Okay.
This beacon serves as cryptographic proof that the human operator is physically present, awake, and actively interacting with the system. The autonomous agent's authority to act on behalf of the human is strictly and continuously gated by the freshness of this beacon.
So if I am actively working generating fresh beacons, what is my status?
You are classified as locked in. While locked in, the agent has full delegated authority to execute high-stakes moves, deploying smart contracts, moving Dash funds, or staking trust in an intuition vault.
But the moment I stand up from my desk to go get a cup of coffee, the beacon stops generating. It goes stale. What happens to Devara?
This is where SafeStep utilizes graduated authority. When the beacon goes stale, your status immediately drops to away.
Does the agent crash?
No, the agent does not crash, but its permissions are instantly and gracefully degraded to read-only mode. Devara can continue to monitor data feeds, process system maps, and formulate potential strategies, but she is cryptographically locked out from changing the state of the network or moving any assets.
That solves the single-player vulnerability. But a massive part of the Modus Moves platform is about community coordination, like learning teams and DAOs. How does proof of presence work when an agent is managing a shared treasury for 10 different people?
For collective agents, SafeStep introduces quorum presence. It operates like a dynamic NFM multi-signature wallet, but based on real-time human presence rather than just private keys.
So multiple people have to be at their keyboards.
Exactly. To execute a high-stakes move for a DAO, the protocol might require a quorum, say, 3 out of 5 core team members, to be simultaneously locked in and generating fresh presence beacons. This ensures that no single compromised device or hallucinating agent can hijack a collective intelligence. The human consensus must be physically verified in real time.
Okay, I have to push back hard on this.
Go for it.
The logic is sound for security, but it seems to completely destroy the primary utility of artificial intelligence. I mean, the whole reason we want autonomous agents is for automation. We want them to do the heavy lifting in the background, executing complex multi-step workflows while we focus on other things, or, frankly, while we sleep.
Sure.
If my AI powers down to a glorified read-only dashboard the second I walk away from my computer, isn't it kind of useless? You've built a Ferrari but chained it to the garage.
Outlier. Systems anticipated that exact tension. They knew that if security crippled utility, builders would just bypass the protocol entirely. To solve this, they engineered a mechanism within SafeStep called the autonomy budget.
How does that work?
The autonomy budget allows you to delegate explicit, highly bounded authority forward in time.
Give me an example.
Let's say you are managing a complex arbitrage strategy or a routine community airdrop, and you need Devara to execute transactions overnight. Before you log off, while you are still locked in, you cryptographically sign a specific envelope of permissions. You define the exact parameters. For the next 8 hours while my status is away, my agent is authorized to spend a maximum of 50 dash, strictly limited to interacting with these 3 specific smart contracts and absolutely nothing else.
So you construct a highly specific, pre-approved cage for the agent to operate within while you sleep.
Exactly. I look at it as the architectural inverse of a dead man switch.
The inverse.
Yeah. A dead man switch triggers an action when the human disappears, which is a highly dangerous default state for an autonomous agent. SafeStep defaults entirely to safety based on active presence and only permits absence if you have explicitly cryptographically budgeted for the risk.
That is brilliant. It makes you realize how reckless the current deployment of AI actually is. We are actively handing the API keys for our bank accounts and our corporate infrastructures to LLMs without ensuring a human is dynamically in the loop. SafeStep is a foundational shift in agentic security.
It really is. But as sophisticated as SafeStep, Intuition, and Devara are, we have to acknowledge a massive friction point.
What's that?
Understanding complex systems mapping, executing cryptographic proofs of presence, and evaluating the truth of a triple on a decentralized knowledge graph. None of this is intuitive for the average person.
No, not at all.
You cannot simply hand a user this vanilla JS platform and expect them to know how to locate the leverage points in their local economy.
Which brings us to the crucial human element. Infrastructure is useless without the human capacity to wield it. To scale the coordination economy globally, you have to train a new generation of systems thinkers. And this leads us to Part 6 of the architectural documents, a comprehensive educational path they call Trust the Practice.
Trust the Practice is a deliberate rejection of the legacy educational model. Outlier.Systems recognizes that you cannot teach the complexities of systems dynamics through passive lectures or multiple choice tests.
Right.
Systems thinking must be applied directly to reality. So their pedagogical model is entirely project-based learning from day one. You do not study theory in isolation, you ship verifiable projects.
And they explicitly emphasize that no one learns best in isolation.
Right. They match students into learning teams. The philosophy is that the steepest, most durable learning curve is achieved when diverse minds sharpen each other, debate leverage points, and execute moves as a synchronized unit.
Here is where the integration of AI into the educational layer gets really interesting to me. They don't just rely on human facilitators. They have specifically integrated Anthropic's Claude model to power Devara's educational persona.
This is a highly calculated choice. Anthropic's Claude is widely recognized in the industry for its rigorous focus on safety, constitutional AI, care, and restraint.
Yeah, they're known for that.
By utilizing Claude as the underlying architecture for Devara's tutoring functions, they provide the learning teams with an always-on, hyper-competent facilitator between human sessions.
But she doesn't just hand them the answers.
Never. Devara helps dynamically shape the curriculum based on the team's progress. She guides the students through Meadows' 12 leverage points, stress tests their assumptions, and ensures they are mapping the system accurately, but she forces them to formulate the final strategy.
And here is the most profound part of Trust the Practice. As you are learning, as you are executing these projects with your team, you are earning that trust token on the intuition graph.
You're getting reps in the real world.
Yes. It fundamentally changes the output of education. I kept thinking about it as a medieval apprenticeship updated for the cryptographic age. In the Middle Ages, you apprenticed with a master craftsman for years, and at the end of your training, you were required to produce a masterpiece, like a physical demonstration of your skill to prove your competence to the guild. In the Modus Moves economy, your masterpiece isn't a physical object.
No. Your masterpiece is a verifiable cryptographic graph of your applied problem-solving skills etched immutably onto the intuition protocol.
Let's consider the broader implications of that. It entirely democratizes education and credentialing. In our current system, credibility is ferociously gated by elite, expensive institutions. You go into massive debt to purchase a static piece of paper, a degree that theoretically proves you know something.
Theoretically.
But with Trust the Practice, you aren't paying for an abstraction. You are earning a public, unforgeable track record of systemic interventions that outlives any single university.
Exactly. If you want to prove to a DAO or an employer that you can solve complex supply chain logistics, you don't point to a GPA. You point to the on-chain record of the supply chain moves you mapped with Devara, the code you shipped, and the trust you earned from the community, verifying your traction. It is the ultimate, undeniable proof of competence. Acta non verba. Deeds, not words.
It's a breathtaking vision. We have covered the zero-build staging ground, the emergent intelligence of Devara, the tokenomic engine of value and reputation, the agentic security of SafeStep, and the pedagogical model of trust the practice. The architecture is complete. So when you take all of this infrastructure and scale it globally, what is the ultimate endgame? What is the apex vision that Outlier.Systems is driving toward?
The apex vision requires understanding the symbiosis between the two entities. If Modus Moves is the heart, the culture, the daily human motion, the community outlier, Systems is the brain. It is the research hub, the protocol architect, the elite intelligence desk. And their long-term vision for coordinating the globe is built around two macro protocols, Initium and Foresight.
We talked about Initium earlier as the individual's beginning, their DD identity. How does it function as a macro protocol?
At the macro scale, the Initium protocol is a mechanism for funding and launching safe-to-fail probes. When a community faces a massive, wicked problem, Initium allows them to deploy micro-grants to multiple teams to test small, reversible experiments in the physical world, finding the precise leverage point to shift the system.
And Foresight.
Foresight is the protocol for staking conviction on long-term outcomes. It operates similarly to a prediction market, but it strips away the degenerate gambling. Instead of betting on binary, short-term outcomes to make a quick buck, researchers and systems thinkers stake their earned trust and reputation on highly nuanced, long-term systemic effects.
So they are essentially paying a decentralized, globally distributed network of experts to accurately predict, model, and actively shape the future.
Yes. And to execute this globally, Outlier.Systems is architecting what they call Modus models. These are emergent coordination protocols designed to link massive, disparate digital communities. And the very first Modus model they are proposing in these documents is called the bridge.
The bridge between Dash and intuition.
Precisely. Look at the isolated strengths of these two networks. The Dash network is incredibly robust. It settles value with instant finality and possesses a sovereign, self-funded treasury, but natively, a blockchain is blind. It doesn't know what is true in the real world.
Right.
The Intuition network prices truth, reputation, and conviction through its knowledge graph, but it doesn't natively settle high-velocity financial value at scale with a mature DAO treasury. The bridge synthesizes them into one symphonic layer.
It is a perfect loop.
Yeah.
The intelligence is generated by the Modus Moves community, structured and mapped by Devara, verified for truth on the intuition graph, and seamlessly funded by the Dash treasury. It is breathtaking.
And the sources close with an incredibly direct call to action. It is an open invitation to you, the listener. They are asking builders to join the research team at Outlier.Systems, to claim their Initium page, and to start building their masterpieces in public.
It's an invitation to stop shouting into the megaphone and pick up a shovel.
The grandeur of this framework cannot be overstated. We are talking about evolving past the current trend of network states, which, let's be honest, often just devolve into glorified digital gated communities for the wealthy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Outlier.Systems is aiming for what they call sacred states. This is the maturation of information finance, or InfraFi. It is utilizing the most powerful cryptographic primitives and emergent AI not to launch speculative meme coins, but to fund and execute humanity's smartest, most empathetic systemic solutions.
I am in genuine awe of the ambition here. It all circles back to the central mantra that runs through every single document in the stack. Wisdom is downstream of motion. You don't become wise by sitting in a Discord server theorizing endlessly. You become wise by moving, testing, mapping, and adapting in the physical world alongside your community.
It is a profound, necessary shift from abstract theory to verified practice.
Okay, let's try to synthesize the sheer scale of the journey we just took. We started by diagnosing the fatal physics of the legacy attention economy, a system that rewards noise over progress. From there, we explored the radical simplicity of the coordination economy, rooted in the Latin lexicon of Initium, Modus, Movilus, and Vodus, all deployed on a zero-barrier, serverless vanilla.js architecture that refuses to gatekeep the future of human collaboration.
We examine the philosophical divergence of Devara EI, a soul-before-brain intelligence grounded in Danella Meadows, designed not to give us the easy answer, but to force us to find the leverage points in complex systems.
We mapped the crypto-economic engine that makes this possible without relying on a speculative token, leveraging Dash's instant finality for value, VOTUS for scarce conviction, and Intuition's decentralized graph for minting verifiable reputation. We confronted the terrifying security realities of the agentic age and how the continuous cryptography of SafeStep's proof of presence tethers AI to human accountability. And finally, we saw the apex vision of building the bridge, an infrastructure designed to fund and coordinate global problem-solving.
It is a dense, darkly considered blueprint. The tools to build a regenerative digital future are finally sitting on the table. The only remaining variable is whether we have the collective willpower to pick them up.
To you, listening right now, thank you for staying with us through an incredibly technical, uncompromising deep dive. We asked you to hold a lot of complex architecture in your mind today, but we hope it completely shatters your expectations of what the internet is capable of becoming and reminds you of the profound power of trusting the practice.
The staging ground is open. It's time to move.
Which brings me back to the very first question we asked. We spent the last 20 years constructing a global nervous system that perfectly, immutably remembers our worst mistakes, our vitriolic arguments, and the endless, exhausting traffic jam of our idle chatter. I want to leave you with this lingering thought to explore on your own. What happens to the velocity of human progress when we finally successfully build an internet that perfectly remembers and financially rewards our kept promises?